Hello! Today's stories come from r/ProRevenge. We have 3 good-sized helpings today of gloriously funny Reddit revenge stories. We'll start with How I Got My Landlord Arrested for Auto Theft. I used to live in a rental townhome. The place was great. It was run by a big company, but they paid an on-site super to run the office, coordinate repairs, etc. When I moved in, it was this nice older retired couple. A few years later, they moved on and the company hired these 2 young dudes. They were jerks, recent college grads who looked down on the blue collar tenants, did loud parties all night, generally ignored the grounds, ignored maintenance requests, etc. But that's not how I got them arrested. In addition to renting the townhouse, you could rent a covered spot. If you did, they gave you a hang tag, and if you didn't have the hang tag, you'd get towed. I had the same car, same spot, and same tag the whole time I lived there. One day, I come out and my car is gone. It was towed for no hang tag, but in the pictures the tow company took, it's clearly there. I paid to get it out and complained to the 2 idiots. They had to call to authorize a tow. Company couldn't just do it on their own. They gave me a half-hearted apology. About a week later, same problem. Again, towed for no tag. Again, tag's right there. This time, I called the corporate office and complained. After that, it started happening nearly every day. When I talked to the supers about it, they'd just laugh. I knew they were doing it on purpose. So, I did some research. The tow company gave me the names of the people who called it in, and it was mostly one guy, but some the other. The tow company wasn't liable because the landlords had called them, so that was out. But I did some research and found out that in my state, calling for a tow when you know it's not a legal tow is grand theft auto, just like if you broke into a car. I also found out you can record conversations in my state without telling the other person. So I went in to meet the 2 bros to talk about the situation. They told me, on tape, that the first 2 times were mistakes, but after that they did it on purpose and would keep doing it, so until I learned my lesson. They stated that they knew I was okay to park there, but they didn't care. I took that recording and the list of calls to a buddy who's an attorney, and he helped me take it to the local police. Police were more than happy to have a couple felony charges dropped into their laps, so they filed charges and went to arrest them. Corporate fired them same day, refunded all of my fees for getting my car out of hock, and gave me a rental discount for a few months. They both ended up eating the felony and got probation. Last I heard, they weren't able to find decent jobs because of the felonies and also couldn't pay their student loans. Both ended up working construction, which they'd sneered at because that's all they had left. Play stupid games, win stupid prizes. It's really only a matter of time before this level of stupidity bites you in the butt. I'm so glad that OP was reimbursed for all the charges. He'll never get that time back, though. I imagine he probably doesn't care given the outcome. Let's check out the comments for more info on how many charges these guys may have faced. Photonics Guy said, so if they kept on getting the car towed, were they charged with multiple thefts of the same vehicle or just a single theft? Technical Domain said, not a lawyer, I'm pretty sure each tow counted as a separate Grand Theft Auto charge. Because the owner kept reacquiring possession of the vehicle, a second unauthorized tow is a second instance of unlawfully removing it from them. Therefore, every tow is a separate charge. Hope they don't find me, said, Chef's Kiss. Zamal42 said, this is literally pro-revenge as you enlisted the professionals all along the way. Towing company, lawyer, police, judges, corporate office, well done. Someone else said, not to mention being forced to work into the same type of jobs they sneered at. Wayne Conrad added, working that kind of job has a chance to actually reform them. A better chance than prison anyhow. So pro-justice as well as pro-revenge. In response to, corporate fired them same day, refunded all of my fees for getting my car out of hock, and gave me a rental discount for a few months. DJ Kautica said, corporate probably got lots of complaints after they hired them but needed good cause to fire them. You gave them that and were rewarded. Sporadic Tendencies added, also trying to absolve themselves of any further legal liabilities. If you're a fan of r/tree law, our next story might just spawn a new nature-based revenge-themed subreddit. It's titled, It is a really bad idea to make a government employee angry. This one is a double government employee event, and what you should know is if you get the attention of a government employee and make them angry, they will make your life a living nightmare. Sorry, this is a long one. The setup is that I was working for a local county government in the permitting department that handled drainage and floodplain enforcement. I received a complaint from a homeowner, nice guy, lived next door to a house that was part of an incorporated village. Not nice guy. Nice guy lived in an unincorporated portion of the county, and hence the call to me as an agent of the county. I drove out to the site to investigate and discovered some interesting facts. The permitting agent for the village allowed the incorporated homeowner to fill his lot, affecting the drainage, which caused the unincorporated lot to flood every time there was anything more than light rain. Nice Guy indicated that there was some tension between him and Not Nice Guy, and part of the issue was that Nice Guy and his partner were a gay couple. This ran up a red flag for me, but in trying to be impartial, I took the information and some photos for the file and indicated that I would contact the village to find a resolution. I wrote a letter and then called the village inspector, Jack Wagon, to discuss. I was told by Jack Wagon that the village could do as it pleased and that I could do nothing to stop Not Nice Guy from doing as they pleased, as it was approved by the village. There was then a comment about those type of people, the gay couple, making complaints just to cause trouble. I was now on the case, and it was time to make sure everything done on the incorporated lot was 100% legal. At this point, the game certainly was now on, because if there is one thing that grinds my gears, it is bullying. I went back out and spoke to Nice Guy to let them know what I was up to and also that I was not going to let this slide. I then started investigating the elevations on the two lots and what fill had been placed on the incorporated lot. The Not Nice Guy came out and started getting belligerent about my presence and ongoing investigation. He incorrectly stated that I did not have jurisdiction over his lot and that he would be calling the police. I patiently listened and then pulled out my two-way radio and requested that the home base dispatch both a village and a county police unit to the location. I then indicated that since there was a regulatory floodplain on his lot, I did, in fact, have jurisdiction, and that I would be exercising my right to determine the impact of his fill activities upon that floodplain. Both of the police units showed up, and I let them know what was going on. They were both appropriately agitated to have to waste their time and let Not Nice Guy know that I was within my authority to proceed with the investigation. A little while later, while I was measuring things, Jack Wagon showed up. He stated berating me about harassing the village resident and threatening calling my boss and filing a complaint and so forth. I invited him to do so, quoting which parts of the code he should indicate I was violating. I was using marking paint to show the limits of the floodplain for the photos for the file. And what do you know? Jack Wagon's shoe got painted when he tried to stop me. Obviously, he was even more angry, as was the homeowner, due to the very bright orange paint in the grass in his yard. I pointed out I had done the same on the neighboring lots, but they just kept complaining. It was actually marking chalk that comes off pretty easily. Interestingly, I found two really wrong things on Not Nice Guy's lot. One, there was fill placed in the floodplain, and two, a garden shed was built on the fill and partially within the floodplain. Both are a big no-no and are actually against federal law. So the course of action had two parts. One, make the incorporated homeowner remove the fill and shed from the floodplain. And two, let Nice Guy place fill in their lot outside of the floodplain to counteract the fill remaining in Not Nice Guy's lot outside of the floodplain. I also told Nice Guy it would be a good idea to run a field tile on their side to drain the water that would inevitably pond up between the two lots when it rained. Predictably, Not Nice Guy and Jack Wagon got super angry when I sent the letter out that there were violations that either had to be corrected, remove fill and shed, or apply for a revision of the floodplain with the Army Corps of Engineers. Good luck with that. This then led to a meeting at the county office with Not Nice Guy, Jack Wagon, my supervisor, and myself. Quickly, things went to 11, and there was yelling by Jack Wagon about abuse of power, etc. The department head came into the conference room and told them both they were wrong and that they should leave peacefully and comply or face the consequences. Fines. The best part was that Not Nice Guy had to apply for a permit. And guess who was the one to review and approve it? That's right, yours truly. Now, I was following the letter of the law, but you have to know that poor government workers are underpaid and overworked. Strangely, the permit for Nice Guy was almost immediately approved, while Not Nice Guy had to have a very thorough review to ensure it was correct. You could make a case I was abusing my power, but I can assure you that the timing for their review was well within acceptable limits. Also, How could I be held to account that they misfiled 3 times before they finally got it right? Generally, if you behaved like a civil human and came to the office, we would help you get things done properly so the permit would go through first time. Not nice guy decided he could do it all on his own, so it took him 3 tries. Had he come to the office, I would have given him the same service as others. But he decided to take the hard route, and therefore I didn't give a single inch when it came to the submission being perfectly correct. Another example of putting the pro in ProRevenge. Whether OP abused his power or not, this story is very satisfying. Let's hit up the comments for some wordplay that might be your new favorite subreddit. Just a random old guy said, "My house is on a double lot. I was paying full property tax, but thought the second lot was unbuildable due to a steep hill and a creek that floods. I contacted the county and asked if anything could be done about the tax on the second lot. The guy talked to me, and as soon as I said the second lot had a septic drain field, he said that's unbuildable and asked for a copy of the lot plan. I sent it, and he took 80% off the tax for the second lot. It took 3 days. Being polite pays off." OP replied that it does. Red Shirts Never Die added, "Manners cost nothing, but can save you a fortune." Whiskey Galore shared, "I wish that there were a sub for wetlands floodplain law, like tree law, only soggier." Angry Pedestrian said, "Or a Law and Order spinoff for floodplains and wetlands." Zacurtis added, "Lawn and Order." Wizard said, "Doom doom, Lawn and Border, Soggy Violations Unit." Seagull321 said, "You weren't abusing power. You had to make sure Not Nice Neighbor didn't do anything sneaky and against code, because it was likely he'd try." OP replied, "That was clearly the case, and the inspector from the village was enabling him to keep doing so. Basically, they thought that they could keep abusing the neighbor without consequences, and they were definitely wrong." Our last story definitely hits the pro level of ProRevenge, but there's a finicky question in the comments later of whether it was actually warranted. So let me know what you think in the comments. Our story is called "I'll Come Back, so long as Larry isn't there." Background. To give you some background on my friend Tim, made up name, he has been programming since he was like 7 years old. Tim said by the time he got to college, he breezed through most of his computer science classes because a lot of the content they were covering he had already mastered years prior. Tim is an excellent programmer. Tim's career has been quite successful. He's worked for Google, Facebook, Amazon, and finally, a hedge fund. The story starts at the hedge fund. Tim works a lot with AI technology, and at this hedge fund, he was the lead programmer manager who spearheaded an effort to optimize their AI that helped them complete literally millions of trades a day. To say his work had a massive impact was an understatement. All of this is going on with pandemic in the background. Due to that, they went to a work from home model, where my friend Tim kept working. During the work from home, Tim was looking around his fancy $4,500 New York City apartment and wished for things like a yard, a heated pool, a nice 3-car garage, and not living in a high rise. It dawned on Tim that he could leave New York City. Tim moves to Michigan. So Tim moved back to his hometown in Michigan, where he bought himself a really nice home with a heated pool, a 3-car garage, a nice yard, and guess what the yard had in it? A mother-in-law suite, which was essentially a 2-bedroom, 1-bath second home on the property of his main home, which he turned into his man cave. It's actually pretty sick. Oh yeah, and his mortgage payment was far less than his $4,500 a month rent, like half. Tim spent the rest of the pandemic working from home, pounding out projects, etc. He never actually informed his employer on an official basis he moved. He just kept working. Then the pandemic ended. COVID is finally over, back to the office, or... Tim's boss, Larry, calls him up and goes, "All right, Tim, on Monday, we are starting work back at the office." And Tim goes, "Yeah, about that. I moved to Michigan." Larry is shocked and goes, "You didn't even ask if you could do that." And Tim basically said, "I didn't know I needed your permission to move," in a sarcastic as heck way. Larry insists that Tim needs to move back to New York City, or he won't have a place on the team. Tim says he's been doing the exact same work from home at a high level for the past year. He's willing to travel to New York City for a few meetings a year on his own dime. He feels his quality of life is so much higher outside of New York City. He has no desire to live in New York City. To which Larry said if Tim doesn't have any desire to live in New York City, then he has no desire to keep Tim employed. Now, dear Reddit, What do you think a talented senior programmer with over a decade of experience who specializes in AI technology is going to say to a response like that? If you're thinking he quit, you'd be absolutely right. He quit. Maintaining complex code can be hard. Now, anyone that has done any programming knows that sometimes the best person to maintain the code is the person who wrote the code. There's logic, there's thought processes, there's so much that goes into programming that can be so individualistic. It can be hard for someone to take over a code base they didn't write. John, CEO, enters the picture. 6 weeks go by when John calls Tim. John is the CEO of the hedge fund. John gets Tim to agree to consider coming back. So that's when John suggests they fly Tim to NYC and he sits down with John. Tim, however, flipped the switch and said, "No, how about you fly out to Michigan and we discuss this?" Tim said he said that because he wanted to establish if he was going to come back, it was going to be him working from Michigan. And if he was going to talk his employment, it was going to be done in Michigan. John agreed, and 2 days later flew out to meet with Tim. Tim sits down, and John says they really need him because he provided a lot of value to the organization and the programming team is struggling. John offers Tim the opportunity to come back with a 20% pay cut since he won't be living in New York City, and John called that a cost of living adjustment. To which John said, "No, I want a 15% raise above what I was earning." John sits back and responds, "The reason we pay what we pay is because we ask you to live in New York City, and we understand that's an expensive city to live in." To which Tim says, "You pay what you pay, and you pay it because I am worth it. If I wasn't worth what you pay, you wouldn't be paying me. Now, my first condition is if you want me back, it'll be a 15% raise." John goes, "And second?" "The second condition is I'll come back so long as Larry isn't there." John sighs. "You're asking for too much." To which Tim goes, "You don't need to bring me back if you don't want to. I'll be fine elsewhere." John goes, "I'll talk to the partners." Tim says, "My offer is good till Friday." John goes, "What do you mean?" Tim says, "Next Monday is when I'm going to start looking for work. This offer is good until Friday." It was Tuesday. John leaves. That Thursday, the phone rings. It's John. In conclusion, "Tim, we're transferring Larry to a different fund. He won't be working with you anymore, and we are fine with giving you a 15% raise. Can we send you an offer letter for you to sign?" Tim said, "Of course." "And Larry is really gone?" John goes, "Yes. You will never need to interact with Larry ever again." That was at the start of this year. Tim hasn't been in New York City, hasn't heard from Larry, hasn't seen Larry on any communications, etc. I have to say, I thought this might go in a different direction, with Tim somehow removing functionality or reprogramming the AI, but I suppose the impact could result in some sort of charges, given the hedge fund context. Anywho, let's check out the comments where I found 3 general themes. I've picked one from each. Durthu said, "Do quality work. Check. Worth your pay. Check. Able to force the company to pay you and meet your terms? Priceless." Engfalis said, "Able to get a hedge fund CEO to jump on a plane to see you." Dakuzo said, "The hedge fund CEO should have known from the moment he accepted to meet out of state that Tim was in control." Espuma added, "I think he knew that from the previous earnings meeting when they tracked down why they were so low and found out because their algorithm needed a teeny tiny bit of fine tuning, costing them millions." De jour one said, "This is 100% a job duties negotiation, as opposed to any kind of revenge. I bet that Larry just did exactly what John asked him to do. He didn't even get fired. Not that I think he really did anything to deserve getting canned, just transferred to a different fund." PR Man 99 said, "They literally just told him, 'You are not allowed to speak to Tim ever again.' He probably didn't even move or do anything." In response to, "Tim should have informed the employer that he moved," Pretty Fly for a Geek said, "That is what I was thinking. There are tax reasons for this. I have worked from home for the last 10 years. The company doesn't care where we live. We just have to keep them informed as to where we live. Also, mail. Important work documents get mailed. HR stuff mainly." If you've enjoyed the story and would like to hear more, consider liking, subscribing, and leaving a comment. Thanks, and bye for now.